Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the December recording, this December podcast of the David Squared podcast. As always, my name is David.
And my name is David.
This is David Squared. Now, we've updated our format slightly since our first podcast. This is episode 002, by the way, and we have decided that we're going to make it slightly shorter. So let's start with a quick 10-minute discussion of our month-ish since the last podcast. So David, what have you been up to?
A lot of Pep Band.
A lot of Pep Band.
Pep Band has started, and it's really fun. I really like Pep Band.
Yes, Pep Band is quite fun. Have you been to both both basketball games with Pep Band that have gone on so far?
I have, because I didn't realize that there was two separate bands, so I showed up to the first one on accident. But it all ends up being lettering points, so I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, but you have to go to every single dang one to get lettering points for our band.
I do plan on doing that because I like Pep Band. It's fun.
Well, good luck with that. Yeah, Pep Band was really fun. I don't know if you noticed, but in the trombone and baritone section, which, by the way, fun fact, I play a trombone or baritone for all you listeners out there. In the trombone baritone section, our entire section was pretty much made up entirely of people from the black band on the gold band day, because a bunch of other kids in our grade and other grades had to swap. So I swapped with my equivalent, who shall remain anonymous, because this is a podcast that's going up on the internet. And apparently we're super paranoid about things going on. But yeah, I actually had a lot of homework that night, so that worked out real well. Yeah, so Pep Band's fun. Do you want to tell our listeners a bit more about Pep Band, David?
Yeah, so Pep Band it's a little bit different from like regular band and stuff, because instead of playing some super complicated songs that are really long, it's basically just like fun, upbeat rock songs like Hey Baby, Come On Feel the Noise, and just like the fight song is something we play a lot.
Yeah, we also play Eye of the Tiger a lot, because our mascot is the tiger, which I don't feel bad about you mentioning, because that narrows us down to 1/5 of the schools in the country.
Yeah.
You can't tell by our accents, by the way, we're American. In fact. Yeah. Yes.
No, you gotta throw a curveball. Yeah, we're German.
Yes, we're just Germans pretending to do an American accent. Also, if I were any better at accents and had done a German accent ever, this would be the time, but no. To the one German internet archaeologist who digs this up in 1,000 years, I don't want that person to be offended, because that's the one German that will ever listen to this podcast.
Yeah, that is probably right, but hey.
It works. All right. So, anything else been going in your life, David?
I've had a load of firewood loaded in my truck since last week.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
But that's not something big, but that's another thing I need to get done today. My schedule's been, it's always work on the weekends is like piling up. Like I did like 9 hours of work yesterday.
May I ask, without revealing our location, what sort of job you have?
I am a professional livestock waste relocation expert.
Yeah. Yes. By the way, that is definitely proof that we live in Hawaii.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly. They do that kind of thing all the time out there in Hawaii. I mean, out here in Hawaii.
Yeah, out here in Hawaii.
Yes. Oh my gosh, we're going to start our podcast with Aloha from now on, aren't we?
Yeah.
No, we can't do that. Do you think I should talk about my special insurance project?
Yes. Heck yes.
Okay. So, in the past week, I wrote a short comedic parody, it's a play of insurance commercials that is kind of a crime thriller. And I have gotten a cast of people at my school. David is not in this cast. I offered him the role of the Geico Gecko, but he declined. And to perform it. If all goes well, I think we could upload a video of it to this channel. What do you think?
That would be really cool.
Would be really cool. Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. I'm going very low budget, and also I'm trying to stay external to our school's drama program, because here's the thing, okay? The theater kids take forever to put out productions because they believe in quality and plot. A bunch of other stuff you don't really need for production. Am I right, David?
Yeah, that's all just optional.
Exactly. It's always been optional. Well, when has it not been? So, yeah, that's the gist of it. Play starts off with a meeting between Jake from State Farm and the Geico Gecko that takes an unexpected turn, and the other 7 scenes, there are 8 scenes total, continue from there. There are about 10 characters, a couple of them will double up on actors, and in general, well, yeah, this is somehow becoming a thing. Let's see, what else has happened recently? Well, I also attended pep band. We talked about that recently.
Finals is coming up soon. It's dead week next week, right?
Right, finals are coming up. Yeah, I need to study. Podcast over.
What you doing?
I'm busy right now. Can you just give me a minute?
David, you're muted.
Sorry, had to go take care of something.
We're professionals here.
Yeah, of course. We're in our professional studio right now.
Yes, definitely not just in our home offices, recording separately. We may just be fresh junior Moors. We are experienced fresh junior Moors.
I have been in the radio business for 500 years.
Yep, that's true. In fact, David, as I hear, was part of Julius Caesar's famous radio interview, and later Brutus's famous radio interview, on which both interviews were later included in the documentary To Brute, how Julius Caesar got stabbed a bunch of times.
So if you've ever seen that documentary, yeah, that was me.
Yes, it was him. That documentary also definitely exists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not even made up.
Gosh. Alright, well, our time's pretty much run out for that segment of the podcast. So, next we will start our second segment, okay?
Ooh.
Yeah. Which is, because this is December, my topic for December, Santa Claus.
Ooh. What do you... So when you say Santa Claus, here's the first question I come up about that. Is there multiple?
Are there multiple Santa Clauses? Okay, wait. First of all, we got to do the thing. Okay.
Okay.
If you are under 10 years of age, spoilers for Christmas.
Yes.
Okay? Spoilers for Christmas. Yeah. So where does the legend of Santa Claus come from? So, according to the Catholic legends, Saint Nicholas was the origin of Santa Claus. He was a saint who lived in, I believe, the 4th century, his parents died, and his parents were fabulously wealthy, and Saint Nicholas apparently distributed all of his money to people. He would distribute it, giving it gifts, and there are several legends about him meeting with the poor and helping them out financially.
Mm-hmm.
This probably, another origin for the tale of Santa Claus probably comes from the Three Kings, from the biblical book of, I'm not good. Let's see. I believe it's from Luke. The Three Kings showed up because John was vague about the birth of Jesus. Mark just skipped it entirely, and Matthew had the shepherds. So, yeah, it was. I believe the kings came from Luke. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. And the idea is these are 3 completely anonymous people. In fact, evidence suggests they weren't actually kings, but they were very well-to-do people, and they came to baby Jesus under the prophecy of a star, and gave him the 3 gifts. Yeah, so that's sort of one of the origins of the gift-giving Christian tradition, and since then, the origin of the idea of Santa Claus has spread and become very well known.
Another that might be possible. I've only heard of it. I've only heard of it very recently, but it's the what is it called? The Festival of Yule.
I don't know much about that.
I don't know much either. Yule's a pagan thing, and it says that apparently it's one of the oldest winter celebrations. So.
See, okay, so here's the weird origin of Christmas, alright? And also first of all, the term pagan is very weird. I think it's vaguely a European term for a bunch of different groups of people that I think are vaguely Norse, or I think that was sort of the European word for Norse and Celtic people and people with other traditions. But yeah, Yule, I think Yule was related to what at the time was the winter solstice, and because they couldn't really track down a good birth date for Jesus, they just decided, hey, wait a minute, people are already celebrating on the winter solstice. How about that's when we call it, because they didn't really have evidence of when it actually happened.
Yeah, according to Google, Yule's one of the. It starts December 21st and ends January 1st. It's one of the multi-day, kind of like what's it called in the Jewish religion?
Hanukkah?
I think that's it. And it lasts over multiple days, where Christmas is just one day.
Yes, you're talking about Hanukkah, which is another interesting point because Hanukkah in original Jewish traditions was not a huge holiday. There were more major holidays. He's a lot of them, and but because that coincided with Christmas, which became a big deal after. Really, Christmas started to take off after I believe Charles Dickens wrote a Christmas Carol. I believe is what happened, and when that took off, they decided, hey, not everyone's Christian, so what's the Jewish holiday around that time? And yeah,
Christmas is really, if you think of how much it's taken off, and now it's just culture.
Yeah, it's very interesting how the story is. All right, so we've got a holiday. We've got a holiday celebrating the birth of the person in this religion who's considered the savior of all humanity. What Jewish holidays come around this time? Well, was this one time like a candle lasted a little longer than expected in a major holiday, particularly. Oh, it's around Christmas, so now it is.
Yeah.
I mean, now, for our Jewish listeners, obviously Hanukkah has become a major holiday in Jewish tradition, and we're not trying to rag on Hanukkah here. That's not what we're doing.
No.
Yeah, we're just trying to get down to the origin of what made it popular. Because Christmas too was not as popular as, say, Easter in Christian tradition before Charles Dickens, and then it really took off, which would eventually lead to one of the earliest and greatest cinematic universes of all time. You ready?
Yeah.
Rankin Bass Christmas specials. That ring a bell, David?
That does ring a bell.
So, how many Rankin Bass specials have you seen? Because they all predominantly feature Santa Claus as a major character.
Man, off the top of my head, I can't remember. Like, I swear I might have seen one, but I can't remember anything about it.
Well, the one everyone's seen is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Right.
The second most popular one after that, well, I believe Frosty the Snowman was also Rankin Bass, but it's generally not really considered part of the overall pantheon because, A, most other Rankin Bass specials follow Santa Claus or events at the North Pole, and Frosty the Snowman doesn't really, and B, Frosty the Snowman was 2D animated, and meanwhile, the other Rankin Bass specials were done via claymation. Really started to invent that genre of. Well, they didn't invent claymation, but they definitely popularized it. And when you think of claymation, your head goes straight to those Christmas specials.
Yep.
Let's see here. I mean, really, the only other major claymation thing I can think of that really gained any popularity is the movie adaptation of The Fantastic Mr. Fox, which I haven't seen in years, but I hear is really good.
That is really good. Man, when I was a kid, I would die for that movie.
Fantastic Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Yeah, I ought to see it again sometime, but one of my favorites, personally, is Year Without a Santa Claus. And in terms of movie quality, it's not excellent, but it's fairly well known, okay? But what I love about it is it introduces two of my favorite characters of all time. Heat Miser and Snow Miser.
I don't think I've heard of them.
Huh?
I don't think I've heard of them. What are they?
So, Actually, they performed the Heat Miser Snow Miser song at the at our show choir concert or school show choir concert last night and the night before last. Which I saw, but the thing about it is, so in Year Without a Santa Claus, the plot is Santa has gotten sick, but but they can't have him sick because Christmas is coming. So they decide that Santa needs to tough it out. You can tell this was not made in present day.
Yes.
So they decide, but Santa doesn't think anyone believes in him anymore. So what they do is they go down to the wider world. They go down past the North Pole, and what they do is they look for someone who believes in Santa. They come across the most anti-Christmas community there is. Well, not the most, but one of the most, okay? I'm talking, this place gets no snow, no one believes in Santa. Literally, they found the worst place to do this in.
Right.
And they decided, they talk with the people, and they say that that if they can get the Mrs. Claus and the elf, I think the elves Jingle and Jangle, and also I think like Blitzen is with them, the reindeer. If they can cause it to snow in this place that never snows, where they always have a green Christmas on Christmas, then they will raise the Christmas spirit, and Santa Claus will come back, whatever. So they decide, for a plot point that has been foreshadowed slightly, to go to the people in charge of the weather, Snow Miser and Heat Miser. First they go to Snow Miser and ask him to cause a blizzard in this town. And he says, well, that's the domain of my brother. So they go to Heat Miser, who says that, no way, I'm doing that, unless Snow Miser lets me melt the North Pole for it that day. And so finally they go to the Miser brothers' mother, Mother Nature, and she forces them in line and makes them trade, so that Heat Miser melts the North Pole on Christmas, and Snow Miser causes a blizzard in this town, Greenbanks, I think it is, for Christmas. So that is the plot of the special. And what's really funny about it, is that in the special, A Year Without a Santa Claus, I believe no, that's not what makes Santa sick, but in the next one, Santa gets injured and sick again when he's passing through the Miser brothers' territory. I think he falls into the banks and he gets a cold or he gets injured. And this time they tell him not to tough it out, because that's not the plot they were going for this time. This is a Miser Brothers Christmas. So instead, they have the Miser Brothers fill in for Santa Claus. And I think it's just like 45-minute movie, but it's just a whole bunch of Miser Brothers, and I love it so much.
That does sound very interesting.
Yes. The Miser Brothers are some of my favorite characters, and if I wanted to, I could recite their song right now, but I'm not gonna for sake of time, and plus we've already gone like 4 minutes over the time limit for this topic. So next topic, you had a topic, as I recall.
Yes. I wanted to talk a little bit about the movie. Everyone knows this movie. If you don't, what are you even doing? Home Alone. Everyone knows that movie.
Yes. So, the first and most important question when discussing Home Alone. What is canon?
Is it canon?
What is canon in the Home Alone universe? Because brief history of Home Alone. Home Alone 1. Everyone knows it. Home Alone 2 is a direct follow-up. Most people who've seen Home Alone have seen. Home Alone 3 follows a completely different kid. Home Alone 4 returns to Kevin McAllister, played by the same actor, who I believe has dark hair in that version, and follows the same antagonist, who I'm not sure is played by a different actor. Basically, same family, all different actors. There's then Home Alone 5, I believe, follows another set, and then the new Home Sweet Home Alone, the 6th installment, follows of a different family entirely, and has a cameo from Buzz, who I believe is the older brother of Kevin McAllister. It's very scattered. So, can we make a commitment just to call Home Alone 1 and 2 canon and nothing else?
Home Alone 2 has a questionable canon, or I shouldn't say questionable canon, it's probably just a movie mistake. But I remember seeing somewhere that the Home Alone 2 was supposed to be set 2 years later or 1 year later, and the ages didn't match up. It was something like he was either a year too young or a year too old.
Well, they do that sometimes. I mean, in Spider-Man Homecoming, they flash 7 years forward, and that doesn't work with the very extensive MCU timeline, which we won't get into.
Yeah. But I do think that the 1 and 2 can be considered canon because it's all the same plot lines and characters. As soon as you get into 3, nothing makes sense.
Because 4 follows the same characters. Also, I believe that Home Alone 1, 2, and maybe 3 are the only theatrical releases. But, yeah, no one... Yeah. So, Home Alone, if we recap the movie. Go.
A kid is being kind of bratty. He gets sent upstairs to... he gets sent upstairs as like punishment, and his parents wake up late because their alarm was unplugged. And they rush out the door, the whole family, everyone's super confused and whatnot, and they get to the airport and don't even realize that they left him behind. And
they're going on a trip.
Bandits try to break into the house, and he takes it upon himself to booby trap the house.
Mm-hmm. Leading to all sorts of hilarity in the third act of the movie.
Which, as a side note, all of the things that the bandits have gone through in those 2 movies, they would have been dead many, many times.
Especially the second one.
Especially the second one. Like, the most memorable is that massive metal pipe falling like 2 stories down. I mean, that would crush your skull.
Of course, getting hit in the head with bricks a whole bunch of times in the second one.
Yeah, that's brain damage. I mean, these are some immortal people.
Which, if you look at Home Alone follows pretty much the traditional 3-act movie structure. Which, if you look at most movies, there is a 3-act movie structure, which is first act is the exposition and generally-ish. Second is rising action, and then the third is the end of the rising action, and then the climax, and then a bit of the falling action and conclusion. If you look at superhero films, usually it's superhero gets their powers and tragic backstory in the first act. Superheroes do all of their crime fighting in the second act, and then have the big showdown in the third act. In Home Alone follows a 3-act structure as well. When before the parents leave him home alone is roughly the first act.
Mm-hmm.
The second act is approximately when he is home alone, and then the final showdown with the wet bandits would be the third act.
Right. And then there's just a little bit of the parents come home afterward and stuff like that, and just kind of like the makeup. That's kind of like just the quick little, resolution at the end.
Consider the third act, part of the third act too.
Yes.
Which, side note, if you've seen any of the Marvel TV shows, they don't work because the last episode always just throws you right into a showdown with the main antagonist, and then after that main showdown, the second half of the episode is just the conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Yeah, I don't know if you've seen any of those or not, but it's
I
kind
have
of why
not,
they
but they do sound interesting.
Yeah. Sorry, kind of a Marvel fan here. So, Home Alone. Home Alone. We're getting a little off track. Um,
I
so,
I have a good question for you. If you had to have one, like if someone was breaking into your house and you had, let's say, an hour to prepare, if you could only have one of the booby traps, which one would you have?
does it have to be one from the movie?
It has to be one from the movie.
It'd be from the second movie.
It can be from any of the first two movies.
I would like to be able to I would like to be on the roof with some bricks.
That is very valid.
That is a surefire way to kill these guys.
I think, oh man, this is kind of difficult. I would probably, man, it's hard to find one that works for both because most of the booby traps are kind of targeted at one person only.
Well, you could go with the original with the cans and the log and all the swinging stair tricks.
I think the one that I would do is the when he escapes across, he takes the zip line over to the tree house and then cuts the zip line. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, and then doesn't he call the police from his treehouse too?
He does, or it's his neighbor's house or something. I don't know. He ends up calling the police somehow or soon after that.
Yeah, I think he does in the neighbor's house. But yeah, anyway, I'm pretty sure that which Home Alone 2 part of the problem is he's alone in New York, but the third act kind of feels separate from that. I wish he'd done a bit more because the house he uses for the third act?
Yes.
You remember what the deal is with that house?
What is the deal with that house?
It's his aunt and uncle's house. They're out of town. They're not even in the movie, and it's being renovated.
Right, I do remember that.
And that just kind of feels like a plot contrivance to have the end of the movie be the same as the end of the last movie, kind of.
Right.
I don't know. How you are remaking the Home Alone 2 climax to fit it with to sort of fit with the original or to sort of fit with the setup of Lost in New York. How do you think you do it?
Oh, probably like. Oh man. It'd probably be something like they get on different buses and he ends up on the opposite side of town and then just moves into like a friend's house that's getting renovated. That's
the same. Here's a couple I was thinking. First of all, he could just set up traps on the streets of New York, although that might catch too many people.
Yeah.
Here's something he could do, or they could have done, is they could have done it the opposite way around. This time, the wet bandits have a den or a lair, and they get away with the theft of the toy store. Or he could have trapped the toy store and done away with that contrivance. But they could have successfully robbed the toy store and had a den, and Kevin might try to infiltrate and get the money back, and he'd have to avoid their traps and his own traps being used against him.
That does actually fit really well with like the first movie is the bandits are always running away from him, but now they've learned their lesson and they're kind of using the same thing against. That would actually be really cool.
Yeah, but he has to go in with like trap disabling gear, and and that is the end of our time. Finishing thoughts, but yeah, he could go in with all of the gear, and we could get a nice montage of him disabling all of their traps and being able, and maybe there's a moment when he realizes they're using his traps from the first movie against him, so he could cut some of the wires and stuff and make it out of there.
You get a nice cool flashback of like him setting it up and how he set it up, and he's like, I remember this weakness here. That would actually be really, that should be the next Home Alone movie.
Yeah, well, problem is you'd have to get another actor for Kevin McAllister, and it would have to also be set in the 90s, so...
That would be very hard to do.
Which brings us to... and how is it our topics always end up on the topic of time travel? How is it that our podcasts always end up on the topic of time travel?
That you don't know. I don't know, maybe we'll grow up to be time travelers.
Sorry about that. There were just some technical difficulties with the audio there, but that right there is our episode. Thank you for listening, and our next podcast will probably be sometime in January. We don't really know. Again, we're busy.
Yes.
But until next time, remember...
Insert catchy catchphrase here.